we can look at any business. Like I'm just randomly grabbing some from the top of my head. Let's say you own
We'll do the financial services.
Let's say you do a car lot, right? You're a Ford dealership, right? Most people think, well, there's no way you could create something for a Ford dealership. We sell cars. People come in, they buy the car, we do the thing, right? Rather than coming out and just saying, hey, it's Ford's spring sale where we give you $8,000 in rebates and you're just hammering the same message over and over and over again, and you're not standing out, you're not building a relationship, you're not building a list, you're not doing any of these things. What if you came out and you ran a campaign that said something along the lines of, here's the 3 things that most dealerships do to sneakily add an average of $1,972 to every car purchase and how you can avoid it, right? So now all of a sudden the person's like, oh, I'm in the market to buy a car. I don't want to be that dumb guy that pays an extra $2,000 I don't need to. And you go in and you say, they do it with undercoating, which doesn't really work, and they do this and they do this and they do this on your financing and they do this and they, blah 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 blah. But at Andrew Cass Ford Miami, we're so passionate about building long-term relationships that we don't add these things in. Everything's about transparency. We're going to give you a 16-point checklist of what you need, what you don't need, blah, 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 blah. If you're in the model for a car, here's, press this button today to talk to one of our advisors. Instantly, you just separated yourself from the entire marketplace.
Absolutely.
Of like, oh my God, these guys are different. Right. And you can do this with any business, any marketplace. You own a grocery store. You could be like, here's the number one pesticide that is prevalent in, 90% of produce on the market today and how to know.
Sign in to find out what it is.
Exactly. Right. And then we don't buy from those producers. We do this and this and this and this and this to make sure that your family's healthy and safe. Boom. Instant credibility to the grocery store.
That's right.
We could just go on and on and on.
But I don't think you have a choice today, right? You have to have, to your point, the corporate website, which is information about you. But if you don't go down this second path, which is the information education-based sales machine approach, you will constantly run up against low conversions at the website. And most likely, if that's you and you're like, yeah, that's me, I really don't have the strategy in place, you probably don't have a lot of deal flow, and you're probably a referral-based business that gets deals once in a while. If you want to have consistent deal flow, you have to go the route of the ultimate sales machine, which is building an education-based or information-based marketing sales process so that people go, wow, these guys just gave me 15 minutes of the most valuable info I've had all month, and I need to meet with them and learn more and find out how they can help me implement this thing in my business as well. It's really that simple, but it isn't easy to build. It's simple to talk about. It isn't easy to build. I find that it's like teaching someone a foreign language when I talk about it on a one-on-one session, and I say, here are the things that need to take place, which is all of this, and here's how that's going to look. And what I'm trying to do, and what you have to think about here is, what content do you already have that can be repurposed? Most people have such great content, they've done nothing with it. They've been working on a book for 3 years. There's all kinds of life work right there on a doc. They've done a great blog post that's just sitting somewhere with no views. They might have been a guest on a podcast and talked about their best stuff, and none of it's ever getting deployed. So we always want to extract what we can that already exists versus creating from scratch. That's the smartest thing to do, because most people have this gold sitting somewhere and they've never repurposed it properly into a sales machine type environment. And that's gold if you can do it, but really difficult to do on your own.
I'd love to shift a little bit to the Dream 100 concept in Chet's book, because I remember when somebody walked me through it, I thought, that's brilliant. A lot of the times on these shows, we talk a lot about the sales machine. A lot of it is digital. A lot of it is paid ads. If I remember correctly in this book, they had a brilliant 3-step process to emailing or mailing and then phone call and breaking through to their Dream 100, which literally costs, little to nothing to implement. And many of our viewers and our listeners could implement this tomorrow.
Yep, true.
Can you talk through that a little bit?
Yeah, it's a physical mail play, actually. So let's say,
Okay.
I'll give you an example. So I did this with a client in my mastermind group about 3 years ago. So his audience, I'd rather use a real life example, right, where I've implemented this. So his audience was, I think, charter schools in South Florida. Charter schools.
Okay.
Kind of a cross between public and private, right? And what he wanted to do was he wanted to help the charter school audience, I think, get more exposure or help them build a YouTube. They didn't have a video. He wanted to go in and do video work for them because obviously when you see kids in action in schools, it's really a good selling component, third-party validation, testimonials, all that good stuff. So he was going after them with the, hey, we can work for you monthly to build your video presence and your YouTube channel, and that all helps enrollments. That kind of a thing, right?
Sure.
So the Dream 100 concept would be, okay, let's identify the 100 target schools in South Florida. Easy to do, schools everywhere, huge population, no problem. He did that, right? So that's number one. Who would be these Dream 100, okay? Now, the process was FedEx package. You could do priority mail for $5, which takes 3 or 4 days. You don't have to do a FedEx for $30, so don't get all crazy about the FedEx. You could also do a 3-day FedEx for $12. It doesn't have to be immediate. It isn't 911. But when a FedEx package or a priority full-size package shows up in the mail, that's not getting tossed. It's never getting tossed.
You got to sign for it, which also gives you the
I don't know if
notification.
I wouldn't do signature, but that's a different
But
strategy.
you could. Because then you'd be notified and you'd have your timeline locked in.
You could actually, right? So FedEx priority package arrives. It's a letter basically stating all of this. Hey, if we could show you 5 things you could do to increase enrollments, and a lot of it has to do with video, whatever. Again, it all stems back to the messaging, right? And the apartments example a second ago could have been you mailing these real estate apartment owners about, right, the things they can do to increase profitability. It could be you mailing the financial advisors for them to talk about the things they can do to help somebody choose annuities. It doesn't really make a difference.
Right. You could literally have the top headline of the package say, did you know that charter schools in Florida that have over 100 YouTube videos showing the experience of their students enroll 40% more students on average than anybody else?
There's
right
your
there.
data.
Bang.
Boom, there's your data. So again, to your point, in Chet's book, it's all about where is that market research data that he says, I think, hit someone between the eyes. There it is, right? So sends the letter, and the letter was 2 calls to action. You have what's called a high threshold and a low threshold. Call to action, high threshold would be pick up the phone and call because that's awkward for people. Low threshold would be go to the website and download the report, do some lead gen from the mail. Some people are, I want call, get it now. Others are like, I'm going to take my time and go through the back door and get the report. And I'm a little more analytical. I'm going to digest it. 2 calls to action, very important. Again, high threshold, low threshold. And then what that did for him is it created, I don't remember how many calls, maybe 7 or 8, but he put 2 clients on retainer. So out of the 100 or 80 that he mailed, and out of the 7 or 8 appointments he got, you can do the math. Doesn't sound like a lot, but he's putting people on a multi-$1,000 per month retainer. And I think he got 2 deals on that one mailing. That's one little micro mailing. Now, what did he do behind the scenes? He mailed, but since he has the information, he was able to call and email as a follow-up as well for those that didn't. To your point earlier, there's 3 pillars here. There's the actual offer, there's the outbound on the offer, and then there's the email autoresponder campaign,
they're nurturing over time.
Hey, I'm checking in again. You got my package last week. So you can build a long form or a long process autoresponder that goes in behind that, for example, when they opt in, naturally they're going to get it. But you could also build an autoresponder that goes out that you manually trigger. Let's say, for example, the mail hit on a Wednesday. Let's start the autoresponder and have email follow up on that automatically while we have our internal people make phone calls. Now you have FedEx package has landed. Emails have gone out. Maybe we send out 5 in 10 days following up on the package, reiterating value. And then there's a phone call or 2 that says, hey, we want to see if you got it. Did you have questions? Do you want to meet with an advisor? You have a multimedia machine right there. And you started with, here are the 100 schools I'd like to target. Here are the 80 financial advisors I'd like to target. Here are the 100 fitness trainers I'd like to target, replace your industry.